You shouldn't judge a book by its cover, right? I remember my grandma used to say that over and over. My name is John. Just last month, I got demoted at work, just a regular guy not making waves. Of course, that meant a pay cut too. That said, for someone like me who's always lived a penny-pinching life, a demotion with a pay cut isn't really a big deal. Good morning. Trying to turn over a new leaf, I greeted everyone at my new job with a bright smile, but the response was tepid, to say the least. I guess I can't really blame them. I have a big bruise on my face. It's so noticeable that people tend to do a double take when they see me. I've been getting comments about it since grade school, so it doesn't faze me much anymore. It's kind of funny how, after college, struggling to land a job and living paycheck to paycheck almost feels like the good old days. Good morning, John. Someone always greets me with such cheerfulness. It's my colleague, Elizabeth. Why don't you join me for the client visits today? You've just moved here and probably aren't familiar with the area yet, right? Thanks, but I think I'll try to manage on my own. Is that so? That's too bad. At those words, Elizabeth's face fell with disappointment. I found her a bit endearing as I headed back to my desk. But with that face in sales, I wonder how that's gonna work out. I overheard my colleagues whispering about me. I'm used to it, so I ignored them and turned to my computer. I admit, my face isn't exactly for sales. But this company hired me and put me in sales, so it is what it is. Just then, I stopped everything. I noticed an email from a certain person. The email was from Mac, the supervisor. He's known for being handsome around here but has a nasty personality. He's the former boss who ruthlessly judged my sales performance and even pinned his mistakes on me, resulting in my demotion. What could this turbo boss want with me now? The email turned out to be a standard business communication. He was asking for advice for the new employee who's taking over my work, who seemed to be struggling. Instead of emailing the advice directly to the newbie, he wanted me to send it to him, Mac. Here we go again. With a sigh of resignation but determined to ensure my clients wouldn't suffer, I sent the email to Mac. He's skilled at taking credit for others' work, flaunting it as his own. It's not the best way to do business, but maybe that's his own twisted ladder to success. I just want to make sure my successor can carry on properly without causing any trouble for our clients. Come to think of it, I wonder what happened with that project. There were a few projects that Supervisor Mac took over, but there's one in particular that still haunts me. It was my first big contract, but I got sidelined and Supervisor Mac took charge. When I complained, he said, "With a face like that, it's a wonder you can handle sales." That comment has, oddly enough, stuck with me. No, it's all water under the bridge now. Better to forget about it. I shook my head to dispel the lingering thoughts. Ah, there's John. I happened to run into Elizabeth at the cafe where I went for lunch, which was just my luck. It's not that I dislike her or anything. It's just that she's a bit much for me. Even I can see she's pretty, and she's definitely young. I worry about being a nuisance when I'm with her, what with this dubious bruise on my face. I was about to leave the cafe quickly, but she strode over with determination. Hard at work, I see. Are you off to lunch now? Yeah, but I've got to eat fast because I need to get going on the outside appointments. Is that right? But if you hadn't had lunch yet, why don't we eat together? No, that's all right. Come on, let's eat. Yeah, okay, I got it. She put on so much pressure that I found myself nodding along. Then, 2 French toasts, please. Right away. She cheerfully placed the order with the waiter. Watching her, I found myself bewildered. Not only had she bulldozed into sharing lunch, but she even decided on the menu for me. Wait, you don't like French toast? No, the French toast here is good, right? Yes, it's really famous for being delicious. She smiled with an innocent cheerfulness. Well, what the heck? A few minutes later, as we ate our French toast, we were having a lively chat. Man, this really lives up to its reputation. It's delicious. Right. She seemed pleased with my reaction. But really, you don't have to have lunch with a guy like me, you know. No, I really wanted you to try this French toast at least once. Is that so? I looked at her straightforward smile and thought she was quite a unique person. You'd normally steer clear of having a meal with an old guy like me, wouldn't you? Can I say something I've been wanting to say for a while? She suddenly stopped eating and came out with that. What's up, John? You're really cool. What? She looked at me earnestly and dropped such a bombshell. Caught off guard, I almost dropped the French toast I was about to put in my mouth. No, I might seem a bit eerie, but cool, I doubt that. No, you're cool. While I was baffled by such an abrupt compliment, I heard my phone ringing in my bag. A call. I'll be right back. I need to answer this. After excusing myself to her, I pressed the call button on my phone. Then a loud voice came through. Hey, what are you going to do about this? It was my boss, Mac, calling me. Hellos, what's happened? What's going on? That advice you sent me in an email the other day for the handover, it was totally useless. What were you thinking? What? That shouldn't be the case. Anyway, you, come over here right now. Now, come on, Mac, don't be unreasonable. Do you have any idea how far it is from the headquarters to this branch office? It's not a distance I can just zip over. I couldn't help but reply in an angry tone to such a sudden demand. What's wrong? She asked with concern in her voice. Just hang on a minute, Elizabeth. The person on the phone is Mac, isn't it? Let me have a word. With that, she snatched the cell phone from me. Hey, wait a second. Then she started talking in a stern voice, with her eyebrows raised. It's you again. I could tell my dad on you, you know. That voice, miss. Miss? I was stunned to hear Mac, the supervisor, over the phone sound so bewildered. Elizabeth is a miss. What on earth does that mean? Please, don't interrupt people at work, but this deal is crucial for our company's future. It's a project your team is handling. You should take responsibility and handle it. She said that and then abruptly ended the call. I just stared at her, dumbfounded. What the heck is going on? As I tried to ask, she widened her eyes in surprise and quickly handed the phone back to me. I'm so sorry for answering your phone without asking, but please, keep this a secret. You see, I'm actually the daughter of the company's president. What? Her words left me frozen for a moment. Sure, now that she mentioned it, her last name was the same as the president's. But I'd never have guessed they were related. And how did Mac know she was the president's daughter? As I looked puzzled, she said, Could I have a little of your time after work today? I was about to hear something completely unexpected from her. We agreed to meet at that cafe. She had ordered coffee but hadn't touched it, just sitting there silently. Your coffee is going to get cold. Yes, it will, won't it? She replied softly and finally took a sip of her coffee. Then she told me something surprising. John, you're my hero. What? What do you mean? I couldn't quite grasp what she was saying. Don't you remember me? When my father showed me photos from his trip at the company, I recognized your face right away. You're the person who helped me. According to her, when she was young, she was helped by someone with a bruise like mine. I was climbing a small mountain on that trip and I lost my footing and tumbled down the slope. But at that time, a guy with a bruise on his face helped me. If I were to guess his age now, he'd probably be about your age. Wait, hold on. I remembered something after hearing her story. It was during my high school days. I have a distinct memory of helping a crying little girl who had slipped while hiking with my family and grandparents on a mountain we visited. That person, his bruise looks just like yours. Yes, I remember something like that happening. Do you remember now? I can't quite recall your face, but I do remember that you had a bruise. This is awkward. That's what I was thinking to myself. There's no doubt that she's talking about me. It's not like anything has to change between Elizabeth and me just because I'm her savior. But I was troubled by the fact that I now understood why she was clinging to me. I figured she was just trying to show her gratitude. It seems that's not the only reason, though. I joined my father's company because I wanted to meet you, John. I was training at this branch, but I never imagined you would come work at my branch. And what's your relationship with Mac? That person used to work part-time for my father before joining this company, so he knows my father and me. I see. I sat back deeply in my chair and let out a heavy sigh. Then I told her, I'm sorry, but I'm not your hero. I'm able to work here in sales only thanks to my grandmother. She used to work at this company. It's through her connections that I was able to join. She apparently was an executive here in the past. Mac probably doesn't like that. My dad says you're a capable worker. What? The CEO's? Well, that's a pleasant surprise. I've been putting in extra effort, you know. Not to blow my own trumpet, but it's true. And because of this, I get remembered, which kinda works wonders for sales. Of course, it also means I can't be caught doing anything shady. Pointing at my bruise, I respond like that. Then she said something unexpected. Your grandmother used to say, that boy is a kind one. You know my grandma. Yes, when you helped me, my father and your grandmother were there and they both looked at each other in surprise. Later, my father told me that he used to work under your grandmother at this company. Wow. I had no recollection of such an exchange happening at that time. After that day, your grandmother came over to our house to visit. She and my father were reminiscing. When I served coffee, my grandmother said, some people judge others based on their looks and their own set of values, but that's not what it's about. What really matters is the kind of person someone is. She said something like that. As I listened, I was surprised and tried to sort out the conversation in my head. So, this means Elizabeth is the daughter of the president of this company, and I had helped her in the mountains a long time ago. Back then, I encountered her father, who used to be colleagues with my grandmother, and from there, she wanted to meet the man who had helped her, so she joined the company he worked for. And that man is me, wanted to meet me. I blinked and found myself looking at her face over and over again. That's why you, John, are like a dream hero to me. When you talk about the kind of man a woman admires, there's only one thing that comes to mind. What's that one thing? I asked tentatively. Could it be the first love? At her words, I almost spit out my coffee. Wait a minute. Does that mean? It's exactly what it sounds like. You're single right now, aren't you, John? Well, it's not about whether I'm single or not. I was not prepared for such a sudden declaration. I caught my breath and replied to her. I'm sorry, but dating. Then she blurted out energetically. Let's start as friends, please. What's with that rom-com vibe? An 80s-style retort slipped out of my mouth. She burst into laughter at my remark. John, you're funny. No, you think. Jess, after all, I like you, John. So, is it okay if we start as friends? Yes, please treat me well. Likewise, please treat me well. Even if there's something I'm self-conscious about, or something I consider a flaw, maybe it's not a big deal to others. Looking at her smiling, that's what I was thinking. And so, our friendship began. She was proactive and a bit forceful, but a straight arrow kind of girl who really suited the phrase love-struck maiden. It seems like the day we'll start dating for real is close. Why? Actually, as we got to know each other as friends, I completely fell for her. While looking at my reflection in the mirror, I practiced my confession. I'm a bit worried about conveying my feelings properly, but I plan to confess when I return to the headquarters next week. Oh right, the reason I'm returning to the headquarters is that my boss, Mac, finally quit the company. When I told her about his misdeeds, everything got reported to the director, and HR started interviewing my colleagues in the sales department. One after another, the acts of power harassment came to light. It's a wonder that no one had consulted HR about it. And so, Mac finally got fired. Thanks to that, I was set to return to headquarters as the new supervisor. I planned to confess to her and start my new role with fresh determination, ready to climb to the next stage.